'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even Dylan kissing Clayton Kershaw's butt. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that one of Jack's 16 stories about an obscure stat would soon be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, with visions of Plaschke's tearjerkers dancing in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief, and I in my cap, we had just settled down for an 18-inning nap. When not all along there arose such a clatter, Dylan sprang from the press dining room with his 10th hot dog to see what was the matter. Away to the press box he flew in a flash and ran to his second row seat where he usually crashed. The moon on the breast of the Dodger Stadium grass was inspiring Tough Jack to give Doc another free pass. When what to our wondering eyes should create but a glorious vision of Dodgers debate, with Mark Potts as our driver, so lively and quick. I knew in a moment this was going to be ick. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and Potsy whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Jack, now Dylan, now Bill, now Andy for one miserable show. On Harris, on Hernandez, on Plaschke, let's go! To the top of the left field pavilion, to the top of the right field wall. Debate, debate away, debate away, debate away all. Potsy sprang to his sleigh. To his team he gave a shake. And they began nonsensically screaming in arguments that were half-baked. Start Roki, bench Roki, send poor Roki out. Let's face it, they had no idea what they were talking about. Then I heard Potsy exclaim as he drove out of sight, Merry Christmas to all. And to Dylan in the 6th inning, good night.
Wow, well done. Wow. Oh, hello.
No, really, right? Maya Angelou, E. Cummings, Bill Plaschke. There you go. Very nice.
Bill Plaschke has written thousands of columns for the LA Times, but I'm not sure if anything tops the majesty of this very special Christmas poem for this very special live episode of Dodgers Debate, our holiday show. It was such a hit last year that we are back with even more outrageous sweaters that come with 9 light speeds on them. Like, we can just keep kind of clicking through as we go. I'm Jack Harris, the LA Times Dodger beat writer, along with our very jolly columnists, Bill Plaschke and Dylan Hernández.
Is this jolly? Doesn't this make me look like a fat Grinch?
No, you look good.
Yeah, if only you had actually dyed your beard green too for this, then it would have brought the whole thing together.
Producer Mark Potts really outdid himself. I mean, I thought the ones last year were pretty horrendous, but this is very nicely
like
done.
These.
This is the closest thing I have to a tree. In my house, the tree is already dead because I can't bend over to water it. So it's dead, and the ornaments are falling off.
You have to water the Christmas tree?
It's a real tree, dude.
I don't have a real. That's what you have to do when you get a real tree.
I don't know. I haven't done that.
Water.
You don't have a real tree either?
No, mine's like made out of this material.
You gotta get a real tree, or at least spray like a pine scent.
All right. Well, we have a lot in today's show. We solicited questions from people. We have a live chat going if people want to throw some questions in there or comments. But first, we haven't talked in about a month now, since early in the offseason. It started as a quiet offseason for the Dodgers up until last week's winter meetings when the Dodgers did what they do, which is have a need and then go out and get the best free agent on the market to fill it by getting closer Edwin Diaz. It sets up, I think, kind of an interesting place for the rest of the offseason in which they could do nothing. They could be in position to keep spending big. I think to me, I mean, you guys can tell me your takeaways from where they're at right now as they look ahead to trying to build towards a World Series three-peat next year. But the Edwin Diaz signing and just the way they've gone about this offseason is a reminder to me that this team is just in another stratosphere of financial power right now, of attractiveness to players, and it allows them, with every top player on the market, to kind of do what they did with Edwin Diaz, which is, we'll wait and see how his market develops. We're not going to go out and outbid everybody for a player on super long-term deals, especially because the roster is getting older, because they have a core of prospects in the farm system they like. But if anybody's market ever comes in just a little bit less than what was projected coming into the offseason, they can swoop in and get him, and that's kind of what happened there.
Well, it's funny, right, because, right, I mean, every league is a copycat league, and kind of the Dodgers have taught, the rest of baseball, right? They conditioned the sport
Yes.
to think spending money is stupid, right? So,
It's the Andrew Friedman doctrine,
Right,
except
and
now
now-
he has money to spend.
right, and now that all these teams have lied to their fans that it's smart to not spend, the Dodgers, who now have a lot of money, right, in part, right, and we got to give credit to Ohtani again, right, for deferring, the payments there. Yeah, you're right. Like they're in a position to now kind of jump in and kind of take everybody. I mean,
We gotta hear this. You gotta hear it. We gotta hear this. Come on. Poxy, can you hear this? Here it comes. I love this.
This is the magic of the live show.
Come on, get in the game already. All right, this is what
don't
Dodger
know.
fans have to wait for. They're going to get this in the season. It's the greatest interest song in baseball. It's the greatest interest moment in sports.
The greatest entrance
Moment in all sports. Here it comes.
You gotta hold them.
Here it is. Here it is. Come on, guys. Get it. Come on. Come on, Jack. Come on.
I hope they bring Mr. and Mrs. Met too. You can put them in a Dodger because they're the best part of that whole thing. Because they're out there like doing their little dance with the trumpet. You know, we were there. The Dodgers were there a couple years ago when Timmy Trumpet played it live, and it was actually awesome. Like it was really cool.
This is awesome.
I mean, I put this to I see where Plash. I mean, he just wrote a column about this. I know where he feels about it. I did ask Brandon Gomes right after the Diaz's introductory press conference. Now, personally, I'm Roki Sasaki's entrance music guy.
That makes no
Shocker.
sense.
I thought it was cool, man.
You have
I
to
thought
mispronounce his name to make the song work.
And I thought, right, Dodger
Belado
Stadium
Rocky,
really
Belado
buzzed.
Rocky.
It really buzzed, like when that song played and he came out of the pen. I mean, right? That was different.
It was cool, but this is going to top that.
Someone just made a good point. Is it better than Eric Gagne's?
Welcome to the jungle.
Because that one, because Kenley's was cool.
Wait, do
but
you
it
even
wasn't.
remember that?
Yeah, I remember. I was
don't.
there.
No, I know you do. No, like you. I mean, you probably remember Babe Ruth said bad music. No, like Jack, are you old enough to remember
I've
this?
seen YouTube videos. How dare you?
Yeah, like that's not. I mean, these things you got.
It was great.
You gotta be there. You gotta.
Gagne's
feel
was
it,
great.
Jonathan
Except-
Brock, my earliest memory of great Dodger closer was like Jonathan Brock's.
Oh God. No, Gagne's was great, but Gagne's been tainted by the PEDs.
Right, but at the
Well, it didn't
moment
take
it
the
was still
song.
cool.
Yeah, it was a good song.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just like the Man You're a
That
Man
was
thing
cool.
was cool.
This one might be cooler. And to me, like the funny thing about the song is it just speaks to like the Dodgers had this one weakness last year, which was they didn't have anybody who they trusted in the ninth. And in their fashion, they not only go and address that need, even though they didn't, like they needed to go do something at the back end of the bullpen, but they also spent the first couple weeks of the winter talking about, oh, well, Tanner Scott's going to bounce back, which I buy a little, but not enough to trust him to be the closer next year. But Tanner Scott's going to bounce back. Blake Trinan's going to bounce back. We still have Vezia. Brock Stewart will be back. Bruce-Dart will be back. Like, we don't need to do anything crazy there. And instead, they go out and they not only fix their ninth inning problem, but they get the guy who most epitomizes like the dread of having somebody pitch in the ninth, right? Like they don't just go and get a closer, they go and get the most intimidating ninth inning presence in baseball. And that's just the thing about like where this team is now. And you know, when the Dodgers signed Edwin Diaz at the winter meetings last week, Andrew Friedman said, like, we're in a really good place financially. This was the most direct I've heard him be about kind of where they're at resources wise right now. He goes, we're in a really good place financially. If we were on a tighter budget or in a different situation, you know, we probably wouldn't be doing this. I would not be allocating money to this part of the roster because there is so much volatility. Example A being Tanner Scott, which is part of why I didn't think they would go out and do a big reliever deal like this. But he goes, we're not. We're in a position where we have a really talented core, where we can go for another, you know, a historic three-peat, and where. And this, to me, was kind of the tell of it. If we keep winning, we're going to stay in a really strong financial position. And that is why, while they still will be a little bit wary of, like, super long-term deals, just given how many they already have on the books, they have reached a place, and back to your point, Dylan, that is in such a contrast to how they operated for the first 8 years of Andrew Friedman's tenure here, because they have ascended to a spot where now, spending money is going to lead to them making more money, which is going to allow them to spend more. And if they can remain this good in the short term, like this is why they're in a different place than the rest of the sport.
Here's a question: can they trade for Tarek Skubal? I think they can, and knowing the Dodgers, I wouldn't put it past them.
Well, and this is where it ties back into, with him, it's the farm system being really good, because that's the other thing that allows them to be aggressive right now, is that they have some faith that, because again, the other part of this is they want to keep the long-term window open too. They don't want to have a fall off. And they have a good farm system right now to trust that 2, 3, 4 years down the line, they're going to have some talent that they're hoping comes up that at least gives them, some sort of stability and consistency at that point. But they also have the money, right? If you make a mistake, if you need to cover something, right? If you need to go and sign $140 million worth of relievers in back-to-back off seasons, they can do that. And so then when it comes to the Tarek Skubal thing, they're the only team, like they have more margin for error to work with than a lot of teams. So while I think there is still going to be a cap on what they're willing to give up for 1 year of Tarek Skubal, especially if they, maybe it's different if they feel like they could get an extension done with him. But there's going to be a cap on what they're willing to give up for 1 year of him. But at the same time, you can risk a little bit more to get 1 year of the best pitcher in baseball, especially at a time next year when the rest of the rotation might be feeling the after effects of pitching as much as they had to last October. And you can be aggressive knowing that, hey, if we got to figure things out later, we'll have the money to do it.
I think, one thing, too, when you kind of look at these prospects, I mean, I've generally, you kind of don't know who these guys are going to turn into, trade them all, But another part of this, though, when you kind of look at it like that, right, is that, take Michael Busch, I think is like a good example of this, right, where, he was like a decent prospect, right? It took him a couple years to become the player he is right now. If you're a team like the Dodgers that's going for it every year, you kind of don't have the luxury of waiting too much, Like you kind of got, right, these guys got to be like ready to at least kind of contribute at like a fairly high level. And, if you're kind of, okay, maybe you can put in a guy, right? I mean, I think, right, we're going to kind of see from here on out like where Pages is. Obviously, He made that big catch in the World Series that helped them win, whatever. But, for a lot of the season, right, it was, and especially late, it was a struggle for him offensively. In your
he had 27 home runs.
And you're better, right? But a better way to kind of allocate that resource might be to actually use it as trade.
Wait,
right?
so you would trade Andy Pages?
I'd
build a freaking statue over on his catch.
You can do both. Well, no, I'm just using that like kind of example because I mean we're talking about guys like
not Trey Pages,
like DePaula, right? I mean, right. Who's in AA right now? I mean, we don't know what this is going to look like in a couple of years when he's up here, right?
I agree.
And
trade all those guys.
Right,
trade all.
Right, and that's the thing. That's just what I'm saying is that like okay, yeah, like these guys might become very good players, but even then, right? It's one thing to be a player with like a future in this league, and a different thing for it to be okay. You know what? Actually, we're kind of getting maybe towards the end of Shohei Ohtani's prime. We have to win now. We need somebody that's going to produce right away. If you kind of look at it like that, the chance of him being that guy as good as and as highly regarded as he is, I hear from people from a lot of other organizations. People keep asking me about like, hey, will they move DePaula? Do you think they'll move him? As much as I hear stuff like that,
trade him tomorrow.
Right? If you have a chance to get a Skubal, maybe you do it.
If you're in the minor leagues, you're a liability. You're only an asset. No, really, you are taking. If you're in the minor leagues,
liability.
Tommy Lasorda always said this. If you're in the minor leagues, you're taking the club's money. You're taking their a uniform. You're taking their bench space. You're not doing anything for the big league club. You're only an asset when you're a big leaguer. Minor leaguers, trade them all.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of where this comes into for the Dodgers is like not just holding them to eventually get them to the big leagues. Although I do think with this outfield crop, like there's a bit of a numbers game going on where, yeah, you could trade some of them knowing you have others. But I think the hope is there, right? Especially when you look at how this team is built. And this kind of plays into why they don't want to give Kyle Tucker a 10 or an 11-year deal. Because they look at, okay, what is a mid to late 30s Kyle Tucker going to look like versus having one of these? Like they have legitimately 6 outfielders right now that will probably be in the big leagues at some point and have the potential to be impact players in the big leagues to varying degrees.
And I'll say this about the Dodgers, right? Is that like outside of Yordan Alvarez, and I don't like even count that one because they traded him like 2 weeks after they signed him as an amateur. But they've done a very good job of like not trading anybody that's really going to hurt them, right? And so, frankly, I mean,
Bush might be the best one now.
But here, this becomes part of the equation though, because if I'm the Tigers, I'm not trading with the Dodgers in the sense that like, okay, I know that whatever they give me, they think isn't that good.
Yeah, but on the flip side, they still might be able to give you the best package, and that's the thing about the Dodgers that also puts them in an advantageous position when you look at the rest of the offseason, not just for someone like Skubal, which look, we'll see. The odds of that coming together the odds of him getting moved at all are uncertain. It was
are
notable.
good, I think, because Tigers don't want to.
We'll see. It was notable that Scott Harris, the Tigers executive, did not. He goes, well, we don't have any untouchable players, right? We discuss everybody, and they're in an interesting spot, especially if, right? It's not just it's not just do they keep him or not, but if they keep him, they're going to have to go make other moves and be aggressive, right? Yeah. So, but if they trade him, a team like the Dodgers. They have the young pitching that you can send back. You have interesting prospects, intriguing position player prospects you can send. And again, it's not just that they have their MLB pipeline has them as the top-ranked farm system in baseball. I think Baseball America, they're 2 or 3. It's not just that. It's that and also coupled with the fact that they know they can be a little bit aggressive and cover things later. And maybe it applies to Skubal. Maybe it applies to trying to go get another outfielder. Stephen Kwan, perhaps, a big name guy like that can really kind of transform your lineup.
You have written Stephen Kwan's name in your stories for the last 6 months. You love this guy.
What I like about Stephen Kwan, and this could apply to whoever they get, but I think if we want to look at the offense, right, and how they round that group out, because that's really the last big need for them, is putting a piece in somewhere, and the outfield would be the obvious one, but because of the versatility of the roster, you can really add at almost any position outside of first base and DH. Someone like Stephen Kwan, because here's what they need. They need somebody that's batting 6, 7, 8, that's going to lengthen the lineup, that's going to be a tough at-bat, and that's going to partially help set the table for Ohtani and the other big hitters at the top of the lineup. That's something they were missing this year, because at the bottom of the lineup this year, it was like Andy Pages, who, was a boomer bust guy. When he was going well, was really hot, but in the playoffs became an automatic out with a lot of swing and miss. And I think what would best suit this team moving forward next year is getting somebody who's takes better, more consistent at-bats, gets on base, hits for a slightly higher average. I think that's why someone like Brendan Donovan has been a very clear target of theirs and a very clear potential fit. I think that's why Cody Bellinger, who they've had interest in, that's part of it. Cody Bellinger now is a very different player than the Cody Bellinger who we saw at the end of his Dodger stint a couple years ago. He now has one of the lowest strikeout rates in baseball. He's one of the best left-on
and he had 17
hitters.
strikeouts in that World Series. I'll never forget, he talked to the media afterward. He was so good. He was a stand-up guy in the 2017 World Series.
Right. So, Jack, so you're going back to this, because I know, during the regular season last year, right, you were, kind of going to
small ball Dodgers.
Small ball Dodgers
I think it's
but don't you think the way this team is constructed and who the big guys are, this is still a team that's going to have to slug to win, I think.
But they have – the slug is going to come from the guys they have. And adding more slug, whatever, like a Murakami, right, which is why I don't think that there's been a real fit there, because – that's a guy that might hit 30 to 40 home runs, but also might strike out 200 times. I think that there are guys that they are looking at. And to be fair, if Kyle Tucker's market does devolve, that's another guy that fits this. Now, again, just whether he's worth a $400 million deal or on a 10-year commitment is a different thing. But I think it's that kind of player that if you're trying to look at an offense that was really inconsistent at times last year, that was pretty bad in the World Series and for a lot of the postseason, that's what you need a little bit more. You need to kind of raise the floor of it so that even when – because, look, when Ohtani's slugging and Mookie's going and Freddie's going, it doesn't matter. Okay, but when those guys aren't, right, you need to be generating chances a little bit more consistently.
But here's the thing, though, right? I just kind of wonder, though, is again where, the age thing, right? Look, I think now that they won the World Series, right?
Twice.
Yeah, right. You have an obligation right? These players have all earned the opportunity to come back and defend their title, so to speak, right? And you know, to me, that even extends right to guys like the Rojases and the Kike Hernandezes. Like, you got to give them a chance to kind of run it back. That said, right, as I'm kind of looking forward to next season, I do kind of wonder. I mean, if age obviously had like an effect on this thing, right? I mean, on Mookie's podcast, like, I mean, Kershaw was talking about how, like, yeah, like that 18-inning game, right? Because we're so old, you know, right? It took us days to recover from that.
Me too. I was wiped out.
Yeah, well, we are old, Plash. we're really old, you know, and so, you know, I'm not sure, you know, I mean, right, we saw last year kind of the Mookie's kind of like offensive decline, especially, right, the power number, right? I mean, this is a guy that hit, close to 40 home runs one of those years, and, you know, maybe not that guy anymore. Maybe this was a kind of a blip, but I think you just kind of have to expect offensively, and even like with the key guys, for it to look like a lot the way it did last year, right? There's no, like, I think you're being, you know, you would be like overly optimistic to think that this thing is just that everybody's going to bounce back to like their prime thing. And so when you're kind of looking to fill the gaps in this thing, right, is it like, do you build around, again, like the Steven Kwans of the world, or do you bring in guys that can actually like have some pop in their bat? You know, and I just kind of think, again, just the way this, like, right, because, okay, like Steven Kwan gets up, right, and so say he gets on base. Let's just, in this hypothetical, he's batting ninth for some reason, right? Okay, so now you get Ohtani, you walk him, you know. But then if the guys behind him have all kind of slowed down, right, and maybe the chance of them scoring like that isn't quite as automatic maybe as it once was when these guys were at their peaks, I just kind of wonder what's kind of the better way to go there, right? I don't necessarily think that
I think
getting the on base, right? I think, again, this is a team that worked well. I mean, I think, right, and to that point, like, you really see the impact of Max Muncy, right? Because it's not just, yes, Muncy gets on base, but the big thing too is that, like, Muncy can turn a game upside down by hitting the ball, you know, 10 rows into the stands. And
He's so important as the bridge between the top and the bottom of the line.
right. So when I'm kind of thinking about like what this team needs, to me, it's something closer to like another Max Muncy type of player. I know that these guys just don't just kind of roll around, right? Like, but you know, you could say the same about Steven Kwan too. Like, I would be looking more for somebody along the lines of Muncy rather than a Steven Kwan.
I think the issue there is, if you're going to make a move like that, it's probably either going to be, again, there's not a lot of those kinds of obvious options, especially that would fit, you know, in the roles they're looking for, right? Like, the kind of player you're just describing is more like a Kyle Schwarber, Pete Alonso. Well, the Dodgers have a pretty good first base and DH spot. If you're looking at the trade market for something like that, I think is when you're talking about more fundamental changes to the core of the roster. Right. And that's why this year, you know, I think frankly this year, like, if you're going to keep the core of this team together, which they're going to do, you have to kind of bet on Ohtani being really good still, which is a safe bet.
Safe bet.
Mookie being better, which...
Not a safe bet.
Look, I think the way they're going to sell this with Mookie is that last offseason, he spent the whole winter focusing on shortstop. And look what happens when he puts his mind to a single task like that, which, not to say he ignored the hitting, but so much of the focus was on learning shortstop. And then whatever improvements wherever he was at the plate got wrecked when he had that stomach virus that zapped him of his strength and just kind of messed up the whole year for him offensively, and things snowballed on him up until the last couple months when he was good. So the hope is now this offseason.
After he talked to me.
After he talked to Dylan, and Dylan saved.
I'm so sick of hearing that, Dylan.
It literally,
anybody talks to him, he changes everything.
He literally started hitting the day he talked to me.
I mean, right.
But the hope there is that an off season where he can now kind of really focus on getting his swing fixed outside of the pressure of the day-to-day games, that he'll be better, which I expect he'll be better than last year.
Right.
Is he going to hit 30 to 40 home runs?
Well, that's the thing, right? Better and where he used to be, there's a huge gap between
with where this team is at, that's kind of the bet you got to make. I think Freddie's still going to be productive, but I think you're already seeing, right, like he's
now
closer to a 15
At what point
to
do you
20
start
home run
dismantling
hitter.
this thing? I mean,
I think this is
Not
why
yet.
you get through this year.
Right.
And this year for the Dodgers is going to be about, even more than this past season, 2026 is going to be about survival. It's going to be about survival with the starting rotation, and how do you get these guys who threw so many innings last year the three Japanese guys, however many of them are in the WBC, are going to have that added tax. How do you get them through the year? How do you get this bullpen through the year and pitching better? And then how do you get this lineup, which is older, how do you get them enough rest, enough off
I think
days?
basically you do load management.
I think there's going to be some
until
load management.
October.
And then you get them to the postseason, and you hope that unlike this past year, where they got there and were somewhat worn down, right? Like I'd say Freddie really never looked completely physically right the whole year, and is just apparently still lingering now because he might not be in the WBC because of some physical stuff. You obviously saw the toll that the season had on Mookie. Max Muncy had injuries, whatever. This year is going to be about, okay, we're going to trust this core, but we're going to have to really try to just kind of manage them through the year, get them to October in a better place than they were this past year, at least on the position player side, and give them a chance to go for a three-peat. Is that the best way? I don't know, but because you won, right? Like that's because the other option would be you make bigger changes this offseason. You trade Teo, you maybe move other pieces, you trade Tyler
You don't do
Glasnow.
that.
And while they've discussed some of those things, it still looks unlikely that
I guess my question is more like you're not doing anything this offseason like drastic like that. It's just like if this is looking bad, right, midway through the season though, do you start dismantling the roster and starting these overhauls? Maybe
Wow,
not.
Merry Christmas.
Right? You start doing that at the trade deadline?
We're already trashing them.
Do you start doing that at the trade deadline, or
I don't think
do
they're-
you
I
go
don't
through
think
the
they're
year?
Did we ask for readers to call in with questions?
We're good. We're gonna.
Let's just take. I'm getting bored with all this.
Well, to put a bow on this, I think they're going to be able to get through the year okay. And
I do too.
You know, like this past year, they didn't have the starting rotation for a bunch of the year. The bullpen stunk. Like I think some of this stuff is going to kind of regress back to the mean. But it is going to be interesting, right? And that's why already, like I wrote this during the GM meetings a month ago, like the endurance test that 2026 is going to provide is going to be really interesting. And it's going to make this coming year, I think, the hardest one on this group.
Oh yeah, by far.
Because of how taxing the last couple of years have been, because of how hard they had to ride the rotation in October, and because of the fact that all these guys are another year older. And again, like Dylan said, had they not won the World Series this past year, I think we are looking at an offseason where maybe they're making bigger moves and really trying to get younger.
And because of the fact that they barely won the World Series.
Yeah, but they did win. And because of that, they're going to run it back with this group. And if it works, great. That's why they're going out and getting someone like Edwin Diaz, because they don't want the reason that they don't win again in 26 to be because they didn't take care of the bullpen. If they don't win in 26, it's just going to be because this group, you know, has just kind of gotten a little too old. But I think if you're a Dodgers fan, that's the way you want it to be, right? You want to see how far this kind of group of guys can take you, which is why Miguel Rojas is back. I'd expect Kike Hernandez comes back once a 60-day IL spot is available to put him on. And then for the
I'm
rest of the winter,
feeling good.
We'll see if they make big moves. Okay, I gotta go through. We're gonna have our fearless leader Mark Potts read some pre-submitted questions.
All right.
While I kind of pick through the chat here and see if there's any good questions. So if you have questions, put them in the chat.
They're all good. There are no dumb questions.
And we'll pick them out.
Believe me, I've asked it.
I'm going to consolidate for the first question. A few people have asked why not Bo Bichette as a priority.
So Bo Bichette is another guy that could fit into this category. Now, again, I think it's a guy that if he's going to get a 6, 7, 8 year deal,
That's a lot of money.
The Dodgers going to do that? I don't know. But that's a guy who is like primarily a bat to ball guy, but has some pop, and I think is an interesting guy to me. And while there has not been anything that I've heard directly or any news out there elsewhere that has connected the Dodgers and him, if the Blue Jays sign Kyle Tucker, which seems like a decent possibility, it might be tough for them to also bring back Bo Bichette. And if Bo Bichette's out there,
what kind of deal are we looking
Bo
at?
Bichette is not the first player I've covered who I've covered his dad too, Dante.
Yeah, it could vary, but a lot of the projections have him in like that 6 to 8 year,
How
whatever,
much per?
150 to 200 million, something like that, maybe a little over.
That's a lot.
But he's another guy that if his market doesn't quite develop in the way people
The
are
Dodgers will
expecting,
swoop
and
in.
remember, he's going to probably be like a second baseman type. Okay, so look at what's happening in the market right now. Ketel Marte might get traded. So if there's teams that don't want to spend huge on a free agent contract and can get someone like Ketel Marte instead to fill second base, okay, that takes away one suitor. Maybe the Boston Red Sox, but if they re-sign Alex Bregman, then he addresses third base for them, but that's another spot in the infield. And I could see a world in which, if Tucker goes to the Blue Jays and other teams fill things in other ways, like I think he's another guy that would fit what the Dodgers want to do, just from an offensive profile standpoint. And you saw the impact he had even playing at less than 100% in the World Series. So we'll see. That's a guy I'm going to just kind of be keeping an eye on the rest of the winter to see how his thing develops, and then if the Dodgers could have some interest there, because it wouldn't shock me.
Next.
Great question from our friends on Reddit. Why does Dylan cut off everyone, and can he stop?
Actually, I've been pretty.
been better
I've been
today.
better
I'm the one
today.
that's cutting everybody off. I feel terrible.
Well, because you know what? Because sometimes I feel like we get like too inside baseball.
I do too,
and
it gets boring.
And I don't think people. That's why people watch this show. I don't think this is a very serious show in general.
How dare you? We bring our utmost professionalism every single week.
She says this is wearing sweaters that light up. Next.
Next question. How many Dodgers will participate in the World Baseball Classic, and do you think that the Dodgers that do participate will suffer any negative effects?
A lot, and yes.
Well, it might not be as many as you think. So we know Ohtani's doing it.
Right.
He's going to hit. Seems unlikely he's going to pitch.
Right.
Yamamoto, reportedly in. It's not finalized. There's a whole process that these teams in the league and their agents go through. So it seems like he's going to be in. That's not a final thing yet.
Would he just join from Miami, you think?
So
If
the
Miami...
Team Japan manager said that is not an option they are considering, that they would not do that.
Right.
So the interesting thing with Yamamoto and then with Roki, who I think is a much bigger question because the Dodgers can block him from participating because he was on the 60-day for so much of last year.
Well, we should mention, right, our friend Taro Abe
Yes.
of Chunichi Sports has reported that Yamamoto's in and that Roki's out, that Roki will not pitch. It kind of makes sense because Sasaki wants to be a starter. He might be better off staying in spring training to do that.
And then Freddie Freeman's going to play for Canada?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of some lingering health things there.
It's Alex Vesia?
Will Smith is in for Team USA. Mookie Betts is still a question mark, and I think the longer we don't get an announcement from him, it's probably
Right. Well, because Witt's playing now, right? And
yeah. Now Mookie did say this year like he would like to play again, but
Right.
that was also before I think some circumstances have changed.
Because now,
how
if
his
you're
season
if you're
went.
the second guy, it's short, as opposed to, I mean, what does he move back to right,
Right.
theoretically?
So-
Yeah.
He still could. He has not been ruled out, but I'd also expect like he might not. Alex Vesia could for Team USA. That was an interesting one.
That is the one of all the ones that right, of all the possibilities. That's the one that makes me like a little bit uncomfortable, I guess, in terms of the effect that it might. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like relief pitchers, he would have to ramp up a little early. I do think, I think from a personal standpoint, like
Yeah.
that would just be a cool thing to see.
It would be very
I
cool.
think it would be cool for him. I'm just
And
kind of
he's been
wondering.
through hell.
Again, I'm just wondering the effect kind of on the rest of the
Yeah.
season. He just seems like such a kind of like a max effort. Like it's
Sure.
to me just kind of watch right. There's some guy, like Roki looks like he's like playing catch sometimes, right? And it's like 100 just out of the hand, and like this guy really.
He sweats.
Right? And I mean this like in a very complimentary way, right? But like with Bessie, I really kind of do feel like he's kind of taken his whatever he was
Well, he
given.
growls, he shouts, he
And
roars.
he takes it to he has taken his gifts and pushed it to the max almost, and and right, he's pitching a lot the last couple of years, and I just kind of wonder, you kind of
Dylan trying to deny him his moment here.
Well, I'm
Great
just saying.
Dylan.
Well, look, I think
The guy's been through hell. It's his chance to shine.
Yeah.
Let him shine.
Yeah, look, I mean, I am of the thing that like everybody, like whoever wants to play should be allowed to play, right? That this should be more, unfortunately, right? Unlike FIFA, right? And kind of with the World Cup, because it's the same thing that happens in soccer. None of these teams don't want their guys going to play international games, but it's just the way the league, right? The way soccer's structured. these teams have to release them. Obviously, this is a Major League Baseball run event, so Major League Baseball is going to protect the interests of Major League Baseball teams. So I think everybody should be allowed to play, by the way, just because that's, I think, in the long term, what's best for baseball.
Next.
Real quick before we move on from this, let me go back to the Japanese guys.
Yeah.
If the Dodgers block Roki, if they lobby for Yamamoto to be used in a really conservative way, is that going to be a problem? Because this, as we've talked about, that is a really important tournament over there.
Yeah.
And the expectation is that in that country, it's that those guys play, and they are 100% available. Yeah. And so especially for a Dodgers team that wants to paint Japan blue and everything, how's that going to go over if it seems like they're interfering with those guys' availability?
I mean, I'm really curious. I mean, I think with Yamamoto, they just can't. They're just going to have to kind of live with whatever, right? I mean,
they're going to let him make full-length starts,
well, what do you mean?
They have to.
They don't have a. If the guy does it, I mean, he was in theory, or Yara Sensei, I guess, was technically the one who came up with this 0 days rest thing, whatever. But right? I mean, to me, the more interesting one is the Ohtani situation, right? Is he going to want to play as a two-way guy? Will he really be okay just hitting? Is he really on board? I mean, I think a lot of it kind of depends on what Ohtani's actually feeling, right? Because one thing is that because they're not paying Ohtani basically anything, it's just $2 million a year. His whole contract's deferred. They're making a ton of money off him. It has kind of subverted the traditional player franchise dynamic, right? I mean, usually the team has kind of the right, hey, we're paying you this much. The Stevie Cohen says something to Juan Soto, right? Soto probably has to kind of listen there just because he's being paid that much. This is kind of the opposite situation. So that's to me kind of the one point where, and I think look, if Ohtani comes out and says, you know what, I want to play both ways, I think Ohtani's going to wind up playing both ways.
Which is a final decision on that will be made closer to the tournament. But again, already the Dodgers are, he's probably not going
to. Don't make anybody mad. I don't think the Dodgers should make anybody mad.
We'll see.
Everybody's happy. Everybody loves everybody. Keep it like that.
I mean, to me, this is why I like the WBC as it pertains to the larger discussion about how difficult 2026 is going to be for the Dodgers to manage.
Yeah.
It starts with this tournament because, there is, especially for the pitchers, a potential cost that goes along with it.
I just think, again, and this will be just the last thing I say about this, right? The Ohtanis, right, this current generation of players, they grew up watching Ichiro and Matsuzaka in the WBC, and I really do believe this, right? Because there was a time in Japan where soccer, right, they were exporting a lot of attacking players to Europe, where the popularity of soccer was really kind of catching up to baseball, and became like a real threat to baseball in terms of participation, like the elite athletes, like where they were going. The WBC is what turned Japan back into like a baseball is #1 country, right? And I think right now we're seeing the effects of that, frankly, right? Because it's we're the number of high quality players that are coming over here really grew up watching the WBC in those early years. So, from that standpoint, again, I am of the mind that okay, yes, it might hurt a particular team here, but if you look at the sport in the long term and take the long view, right, and again, they've lost market share to the NFL, NBA in recent decades. You want this sport to be as popular as possible, and that place might have to be overseas.
All right.
Next.
Sorry, that was kind of long.
That was really long, Dylan.
I know. Here I was.
Jesus.
Here I was talking about how I cut people off because somebody should have cut me off.
That's like a big piece of coal in my stocking.
Question: is Tanner Scott salvageable?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I think he is.
I mean, he's not gonna, probably, especially now, he's not gonna be.
Hey Jack, did you ever get any details about his lower body injury?
This came out publicly. It was.
Did it come out publicly?
Yeah, it was a backside issue. I think is how we ended up. Right.
Is that the?
What did he have?
He had an abscess.
Hemorrhoids. Say it, Jack.
Well,
you gotta say it.
Not exactly, but
give the people a Christmas present.
Probably gives you it was around there.
Around there?
Around there?
Where?
Around there.
Be more specific, Jack.
There ain't no around there. There's either there or there ain't there. Ain't no around there.
That really was God, just what a crazy, a sadly, ironically, just like, but also sort of not fitting way for a season.
You're
but just like
going
this
to
terrible
say,
thing.
I don't understand what
he's going to say Terrence Scott was a pain in our butt all year. Ironically, that he gets solid by a pain in the butt, right? Is that what you're going to say?
That's-
All right, I'll say it
that
for you.
works. And then also his absence required Clayton Kershaw to get sacrificed in that first playoff appearance he had. Well, luckily he had his redemption.
I've never said.
But yeah, sorry. Yeah, he's salvageable. I mean, the stuff still was like the stuff was fine. It was the execution and I think some of the mental approach at the end of games. So he's going to be in a lower pressure role where he can match up probably a little bit better. And we see this all the time with relievers. I mean, Edwin Diaz had the second most saves in MLB history in 2018, then had a terrible 2019, and he's been really good ever since. So sure, he's salvageable.
Is there a realistic chance they'll take a longer look at Sasaki being a reliever?
Not right now. I mean, he's going to be a starting pitcher. That's what they told him when they put him in the bullpen last year. That was the whole deal. Look, if the starting thing doesn't work out long term, could he go back to the bullpen? Sure, but they're going to give him every opportunity to be a starter.
All right, this will be a fun one. How aware and concerned is the Dodgers organization about visiting the Trump White House again post-ICE, terrorizing Latinos in Los Angeles?
They can't go.
Ed, what is the temperature in the clubhouse about this issue? And they said they're Team Dylan on this one.
All right.
Yeah, no, I think Dylan wrote some great columns on that, and it even stands even more now. There's no way this team can go to the White House. There's just no way.
I don't know how far down the decision-making process they are in this. I mean, last year they kind of kicked the can on it till late in spring training before they made an official decision. It is their first road trip. Is going to D.C.
Oh,
next
really?
year. Yep. It's D.C. Toronto, or maybe Toronto D.C. But those are the first two cities to go to, like the first week of April. The president has invited them already on Truth Social. I would.
Do you have a Truth Social account?
No, but these things have a way of matriculating into the public consciousness. If you haven't seen. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's less likely they go than it was last year. I thought last year, right? He had just come into the White House. It was. I think my stance on it was going to be more controversial if they didn't go than if they did, and I think it was kind of like the path of least resistance was going. I think if you go,
I think it's just the opposite this year.
Yeah, if you go this year, I mean, people will be upset in a way they were not last year. I'm confident.
Yeah, I kind of feel like last year, right? The calculus might have been that, like, okay, right, this president's like a buffoon, and he can't actually even though he's saying he's going to do all these things, he won't actually be able to do it. And now that things actually got
he's done it.
Now things have actually. Now I would have said like he said he was going to do it, like right, but now he's actually done it. And I think that because I think the Dodgers viewed this as a financial thing, right, in terms of like, okay, what's going to cause like the least disturbance in kind of our fan base, what would actually stop people from coming to our games, and now things have gotten bad enough with this thing that
I agree.
I think it's turned into like a potential like landmine for them, right? And so my guess is that they're gonna tap dance around the landmine and not go this year.
Will you set off a landmine with a column if they go?
Potentially.
All right, Mark, you got more? I've been pulling some out here.
No, go for it.
All right, this one was interesting. Okay, how will the Dodgers manage the starting pitching to be rested and ready for next year's postseason? Our starters have less rest because of the playoffs, WBC, and they're prone to injuries. Like, this part I'm curious about, especially as it pertains to, like, Ohtani, because he's going to be healthy. He's going to be ready to make starts from the beginning of next season.
I think you go like a 10 days of rest.
And that's sort of what Dave Roberts...
The whole season for all of them.
Yeah, that's what Dave Roberts was kind of indicating they might do, at least with Ohtani. And I think with the group... Again, I'm kind of curious to see this year, just like there's going to be a lot of strategic maneuvering, I think, with the pitching and even some of the position players. And when it does come to the trade market, by the way, I think this is the one reason the Dodgers could maybe pass on certain trades this winter, is because I think there's going to be a high bar for them to part with this young pitching that they have, right? Because they do have Emmett Sheehan, and River Ryan's coming back from injury, and Gavin Stone, who remember led the team in innings
He was
in
great.
the 24 World Series team before getting hurt at the end of the year. He's coming back, and Justin Wrobleski can make starts for if you need, and Ben Kasparius. So all those guys could be pieces in trades that would be attractive to people, especially if you're talking about like the Brendan Donovan, Lars Nootbaar, Jarren Duran kind of aisle of the trade market. But if you're the Dodgers, do those moves move the needle enough for you to part with guys that you might need to pitch a lot of innings this coming year? Like I think I saw a joke when there were like Tarek Skubal rumors going around. Like, oh, if the Dodgers get Skubal, this will be the rotation next year. Skubal, Sheehan, Wrobleski, Kasparius, Bobby Miller, and then in parentheses, Sasaki, Glasnow, Snell, Otani, Yamamoto
great.
on the IL, because it might look like that for parts of next year.
That's great.
Well, it's interesting, right? I do think Yamamoto's going to, I mean, he talked about this last year, right? Just kind of his wanting to win the Cy Young Award. I think he's going to come in here and, right, as much as like we kind of think, we look at that postseason and think he's going to take like maybe put his foot off the gas a little bit. I kind of see it going actually the opposite way, where he's going to keep pushing himself. And then, you know, if you're both Yamamoto and if you're the Dodgers, right, it comes down to like how much do they believe in like Yada Sensei, I guess, right, who's obviously, you know, come up with whatever training regimen that allowed this guy to, you know, have that postseason that he did.
What was more unreal, Mickey Rose, Homer, or Yamo pitching back-to-back games? I think it was Yamo.
I mean, the Yamamoto thing
Was unreal. Was unprecedented, unheard of.
Yeah, like Miggy Rowe running into a home run.
Ran a home run.
That happens. It's baseball.
Yeah.
Yamamoto doing that, you know, was just is not something that you see. I think I mentioned it that night. But like, I grew up in Arizona. Randy Johnson pitching Game 6 and 7 of the World Series
That's
is
right.
like one of the most defining moments of that whole thing. And to me, like I always remember thinking like that is just it's such another era that we will never see again. Somebody do something like that. And for him to come, like he threw more pitches. Yamamoto threw more pitches in those two games than Randy Johnson did in 2001, and a lot higher leverage pitches in both of them. And yeah, for him to get through that, but that will go down as a really, I think of this whole like run, right? Like maybe one of the most defining moments, right up there with Freddie's walk-off grand slam last year.
Bulldog did it in '88, and it lasted for 40 years.
Yeah.
People still
Yep.
talking
I'm
about
also
it.
kind of curious, I guess, kind of Otani's mindset, like coming into this season, right? I don't think, you know, the way he pitched in the postseason that he could have possibly have been satisfied with that. You know,
Probably not.
right?
no.
It was right given the standards that he
at
kind
least
of
the
hold
Game
himself
7
to,
thing.
right? And does he, you know, so right? Is he of the mind? Okay, well, as long as I, you know, if I go out and have like a great October on the mound, right? Would that be enough for him, or does he want to like, hey, you know what? Like I'm at the height of my powers right now, and if I'm gonna have like kind of the greatest, you know, I mean, you could argue that he's already had like the greatest season ever, but in terms of like, right, you know, I'm going to kind of do this two-way thing at the highest level possible. Like I got to do it now. I'm going to be kind of curious to see again how I understand what the Dodgers want to do, but Otani is so kind of singularly, right, driven by, we've talked about this before, but just how driven he is by his goals and stuff. I am kind of curious where he's going to kind of want to take this.
When Otani hit his third home run, I literally lost my breath. I was hyperventilating. I was stunned. It was that's the most unbelievable moment. I think it's bigger to me. It was crazier than Freddie's grand slam against the Yankees.
You know what's funny about that? I was actually I had my head down and I was already like writing because even after the 2 home runs, this was
Yeah,
like,
right.
The second one left the stadium.
Yeah,
That was
and then
like
so I'm down writing and he's up and I just heard it and I'm like, oh crap, he hit another one.
That's great, Dylan. Dylan says, "Oh crap!" While the rest of the world's cheering.
Well, I had to. It was going to require me to
At least you weren't sleeping.
rewrite some of the stuff that I was
Paragraph.
writing. Yeah.
we got some Dalton rushing questions. You guys
Ooh.
have any hot Dalton rushing takes? I think he'll play a little bit more this year. He's a guy that probably feeds into the prospect discussion we had earlier.
Yeah, I
about,
thought.
like,
I mean, I was kind of surprised. I guess right. I like the other guy that they got, Rortvet.
Rortvet.
I did too. Yeah.
I think that my sense is the Dodgers, because they quietly signed him to this contract and tried to slip him into the minors. I think they were a little surprised that he got claimed.
Right. So I liked him.
But they-
in the world that I imagined, I thought Rortvedt would stay, and that would actually give them the wiggle room and the necessary depth to actually trade Dalton Rushing.
Yeah, but
right.
his value now, right? I think if you're the
It's
Dodgers,
just
you
low.
look at it, right?
Yeah.
It's let's give this guy another run. Maybe there's going to be some more extended playing time. He can maybe
That's the thing,
factor
though.
in at
Some
first
stocks
base.
rebound. Some stocks, like his guy Bobby Miller, right? I mean,
Oh my God.
what could you get for Bobby Miller right now?
I mean,
A bag of balls.
I invested,
And we've
I
and you know what?
invested heavily in Bobby
Let's
Miller,
stop
too.
here. Like we've maligned
He's a
Bobby
reliever.
Miller
so much.
quite a bit.
Bobby Miller reliever. Maybe that's the 2026 surprise.
I mean, we've talked about that for the last 2 years.
All right, we talked about the most exciting Dodger. Is Will Smith the most boring Dodger?
So Raising Cane's does these promotional events. They've done it the last couple of years, like right after the World
Yeah.
Series. 2 years ago it was Kike Hernandez. They bring him in. There's fans there. They shoot commercial ads during it. They do an interview, and like Kike eats all that up, right? He was getting up on the stage 2 years ago going, "Tell Andrew to bring me back," you know. And Will Smith doing it. He was a good sport, but watching him read cheesy chicken finger commercial ad lines,
Painful.
and talk. But you know, that's what was so funny about like him being technically the hero. He hits the first. That was the first game-winning extra inning Game 7 home run in World Series history.
Well,
Like,
so-
it was historic, and it's going
But,
to kind of get glossed over because it's Will Smith. And
Yeah.
but I also think
Miggy Rose home run will get.
that'll be remembered more. Yamamoto's stuff will be remembered more. The catch will be remembered more. But that's also okay with Will Smith. He's happy to
He is.
kind of be that guy, and
So interesting.
he
All right,
got-
so who's the best Dodger talker? Max Muncy, right?
Ooh, the best talker? Well, there's different categories. Blake Snell's the most interesting talker, I've decided now. Like, that guy,
Really?
you don't know what you're going to get, probably good or bad. Like, obviously, some people took umbrage with his whole, like, oh, they got lucky. And it's not, he didn't say they got lucky, but that he got unlucky in that, whatever, game 3 start in the World Series, whichever one it was at Dodger Stadium. Yeah, it's Muncy's probably the most like
Insightful.
yeah, like he'll break things down, especially on the whole topic of how difficult the playoffs are
Yeah,
and
he's
the
really
toll
good.
it takes. Freddie Freeman's probably the
Freddie's pretty
friendliest talker. I mean, Clayton Kershaw was good. Like Kershaw was probably the most a mix of kind of like wisdom and just kind of like
I don't
direct
know.
No, because
honesty
that's the thing.
with
He,
his-
'cause I
Late-
think he took it seriously, right? Like there wasn't any. He wasn't gonna like lie. He wasn't gonna exaggerate things. Like he was gonna kind of tell you.
He
the way
became
saw
a
it.
he became a good interviewer, but he was
He did.
so bad early. He was
he had a
dismissive.
lot of time to get better.
He would talk down
He
to
did. He
the
was-
writers. He was
Yeah.
short.
Yamamoto's good.
Is he?
Yeah.
In Japanese.
Yeah, Japanese.
And then you know what? Miguel Rojas hits that home run in Game 7. Is playing through an injury, by the way, that we wrote about. That like he could barely move his arm that day, and then he does. I've never seen this before. 2 straight hours of no breaks of media on the field afterwards, from people coming up to him to going on the TV set.
That's a future manager, right?
Yeah,
there,
you're right. You're exactly right.
He took advantage. He enjoyed the spotlight there, in a BBWAA media good guy, Miguel Rojas. But yeah. Okay, last one I have. Mark Walter fixed the Dodgers. Will he fix the Lakers?
Yes, but it'll take time. LeBron's got to leave first, and LeBron should leave. This is got to be his last year. They cannot resign LeBron. Get rid of. I know people aren't watching us for this kind of talk, but I got to say it.
I think people are interested.
LeBron's
about
got
the
to
Dodger.
be gone.
Lakers.
Once LeBron's gone, they have a little more room to work with.
And I think here's the thing, right?
Camp-wise.
Is that like the Lakers have been right there? It's a mom and pop shop. As big as the brand is, they're not like caught up right? The
They're
scouting
so-
department's small.
They're the worst in the league.
Their analytics department, I think, was like one guy.
One guy.
right? And
Which is in part why they
Right.
brought like Andrew Friedman in to help advise, and Farhan Zaidi is going to take a very
gonna
active
be more
role.
Farhan than
it will be
than
more
Andrew.
Farhan.
But I mean, look, I've been saying this for a while, and you look at the record right now, and they're terrible. But like, I actually think that Steve Ballmer's been like a very good owner in terms of providing all this.
He provides all right.
Kawhi Leonard's been the worst signing in sports. What are you talking about?
They had right, but I'm talking
Steve
about
Ballmer's a great guy,
No, I'm talking
but
about
he needs to be less involved.
Right, but I'm talking about like providing the team with stuff to like aid the players' recovery, right? Like the stuff, right? Their analytics department, like all the things on the side that doesn't fall under the salary cap, right? That you could, right, give your team to improve their chances of winning. He has done that. Okay. Now they're the Clippers.
He's also overseeing
they're the Clippers. They had to go down this Kawhi thing, which cost them
all these draft picks. It cost them SGA,
right? All that stuff. No, but I guess
Their
the
reputation.
point. But here's the thing. I guess the point I want to make here, right, is that right, and to the Kawhi point is that, I think in a lot of sports you can kind of build out all that type of stuff, right? And okay, like like the Dodgers, right? Their analytics department, their R&D department, whatever, it's big, and you see some of the effects of that out on the field. The thing is in basketball, though, ultimately, right? The amount of the level of impact that like just one guy can even have is so disproportionate to everything else, right? And so it's built around the star, and maybe again, like compared to like baseball, I think some of those ancillary things won't help, relatively speaking, won't move the needle as much in basketball as it would in baseball, right? And you still have a salary cap, and so. I think to me this is a question of it's like how good and how long how good can Luka be, how long can he be good, and then it kind of becomes like who else kind of becomes available, because look, they're not gonna win a title with DeAndre Ayton playing center. They're not. He's like a traffic cone there. They're a horrible defensive team. I mean,
if they trade for Giannis,
right? Yeah, I mean, right, and those are the types of things that they're going to have to do here.
Yeah,
and that's like either they can or they can't, right? It's not like the Dodgers. Like, look, they didn't sign. When we right back in the day, we were calling for them to sign Bryce Harper. It didn't ultimately. You can make up for these things, right? In basketball, there are only so many of those types of guys that are going to really move the needle. That if you don't hit on that, all the other stuff almost won't matter, right? They need to.
No, but Sam Presti in OKC has built a team of no names. He's done it without a star except for SGA.
But yeah, you can't just say except for SGA, because SGA is there. He's the
best player in the league.
He's He's the difference maker, right?
But they didn't sign him as a free agent.
Yeah, you can do the other stuff, but you still need the super. You're not going to win without a superstar. And look, they got one in Luka.
Yeah, but I think
and then you're starting to get into this race now, right? Where okay, they're going to have to kind of get caught up. I mean, this is the thing. It's the Lakers are behind everybody analytically. Forget about whatever. This isn't when they came in and took over the Dodgers and okay, most of the teams in the league were kind of at one level, and the Dodgers just jumped out in front of everybody. Here they have to catch up, and they're going to have to catch up before Luka gets old. And like you said, I don't think that this is going to be an overnight process. So I just think it's going to be harder. I'm not saying it can't happen. I just think it's going to be harder.
Laker Dylan has now caught us up on the whole.
Thanks, Dylan.
On the Lakers world.
You say they're bad this year. I think they're 17-4.
Yeah, they played a lot of bad. They've been
I know.
beating up on a lot of bad teams.
I agree.
They cannot stop anybody, and they can't shoot.
And they can't
Gifted
shoot.
a win against the Suns with some outrageous foul
You love
calls.
Aiden. You love DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, as a Suns fan, a very complicated relationship with DeAndre Ayton, and love is not the adjective.
It's hard to win playoff games when you can't defend and you can't hit threes.
Yeah.
Real quick before we wrap, do you all want to open your Christmas gifts?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Potts has given us some gifts.
Oh, I have to check into my.
Appropriately wrapped in newspaper.
Plaschke did this once. I have to check into my Southwest flight right now.
Where are you going?
I'm going to I'm going to Seattle with the Rams. Do you want to talk about the?
Oh,
I
baby.
love this.
Zip, this is awesome. Thank you. What does yours say?
Peter Parker.
What did yours say?
I hate your town.
What is yours?
Zip it.
Zip it.
Oh, thank you, Potsy.
Thanks, Potts. It's very nice of you.
This is honestly
glad-
like the best Christmas present I've gotten in a
This
while.
is
Like,
awesome. Thank you.
I'm glad. I'm glad that my.
I didn't get you anything, Potsy. I didn't get you squat. I apologize.
You got him a poem. A very nice poem.
That's right.
I'm glad that my senior yearbook photo or my senior photos from high school.
Is that what that? Is that what
continues to be my LA Times headshot.
Is that really?
Well, when I joined the Times, I joined as an intern. So when you join as an intern, you don't get the headshot typical onboarding process, and then I just never got one.
Well, thanks, Potsy. That's very
Hey,
thoughtful.
do I not look like this guy anymore?
Well,
the-
you got
I got the
beard,
beard, right? Because even like the Japanese reporters like make fun of me for this photo, saying that like I am considerably more obese than I used to be at this.
No, you're not.
Yeah,
You both look great, and it's
considerably
been an
no.
honor and a pleasure to
Yeah, this show has
be
been
on the show with
very-
you guys.
Yeah, the show's been very fun, and doing stuff like this again is a reflection of how many people.
And we want to thank
look
everybody
at
who
how many
watches
people are on
and
right now.
listens and comments
got-
on us and grabs us and tells
Yeah.
us that they like it. We appreciate all that.
Yeah, no, this doing the show has been a really fun part of the last couple of years for us, and hopefully for everyone at home who's followed along. Yeah,
It's been great.
yeah.
Want to wish a good, happy holiday to everybody. Merry Christmas from Dodger Debate to you.
You don't have a goodbye poem?
I can read it. The last line again. Then I heard Potsy exclaim as he drove out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to Dylan in the sixth inning, good night."